A special welcome to today's edition of the Business Day. Our topic for today is agriculture as a business. I'm reading one of the books published at IITA, International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. I'll be discussing with the regional director for this Southern Africa hub, Dr. David Chikoy. I also visit some of the farmlands that are right here. And of course, we'll learn how to do agriculture as a business. My name is Shingongo. I'm your host. Thank you so much for joining us. Like we mentioned on today's edition, we are featuring the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, a very big organization that is doing massive work in the area of agribusiness. We are limiting the edition today to agribusiness. I'll be discussing with the regional director for the Southern Africa hub of the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, Dr. David Chikoy. Thank you so much for allowing us in your office.
Thank you very much, Paul, and you're welcome to IITA.
Awesome. To begin with, just for an understanding, what is IITA all about?
Well, IITA, in short, the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, is an agriculture for development organization. So which means that we don't just work on research, we need to work on research which is relevant to the needs of the people. And really our focus here is the small-scale farmer. You know, in Africa, the tendency is to treat agriculture as, business as usual. It's just one of those things you can do, especially when you engage in agriculture when you're stranded. But for us, we want to change the mindset. Agriculture is a business. And everybody who ventures in agriculture has to see it as a benefit, as a business. Go there, put money, put effort, put energy, so that at the end of the day, you get a payoff. As I said, we work mainly with small-scale farmers. That does not mean that we exclude the commercial farmer. But given that we are publicly funded, the mandate just emphasizes that we work with small-scale farmers. So what is it that we do as IITA? First of all, if I give you just a historical perspective, IITA is one of the 15 centers that belong to the Consultative Group on International Agriculture Research. The centers are scattered throughout the world. Now, what is unique and what is different about IITA? IITA is one of these ones which is Africa-based. So our mandate is Africa. There are a few areas where we might have a global mandate, but really 90% of our focus is in Africa, working with Africa, trying to uplift the lives of small-scale farmers. We're trying to address poverty, food insecurity, and also natural resource degradation. You know that, agriculture, if you overdo it, you can actually damage the environment. Okay, but as IITA, we actually try to make sure that, yes, let's get high food productivity without compromising the environment. Because if we compromise the environment down the road, we'll be in a situation where we are not able to produce. So how will we be able to survive? That means we'll have to import food from elsewhere. Yes, so when we look at our mandate, Africa, it's a big continent. As IITA, we have about 250 scientists, which that's a small number compared to our geographical area. So essentially, to have wide coverage, we are organized around 4 major hubs. We have a regional hub for West Africa, where the headquarters is in Nigeria, together with the headquarters, the overall headquarters for IITA. We have another hub in Central Africa, with the regional offices headquartered in DRC, Kinshasa. Then the third hub is in East Africa, where the regional offices are managed from Dar es Salaam. Then for Southern Africa, we take care of business in SADC, but our regional headquarters is right here in Lusaka, in Zambia.
Awesome. What projects exactly is IITA currently implementing?
A number of projects. I think, let me not put them as projects. Let me describe as thematic areas. Now, we have activities which center around plant breeding and biotech. We have another thematic area on natural resource management. Then we have another area which focuses on plant health management. Then the last but one is social sciences and agribusiness. So these particular thematic areas supports some of these more technical areas. Okay. Then we got one cross-cutting area, which is capacity development or capacity building, where actually we do a lot of training of graduate students as well as interns. Teaching is not our primary responsibility, but actually in that area, what happens is that we collaborate with a lot of universities who send students to us who actually want to have practical experience. Yes. So the awarding of the diplomas, degrees is still done by the universities, respective university, but the student can actually come and do the field work with us, and that is cross-cutting.
Well, yeah, I loved the way you mentioned when beginning that agriculture, you take agriculture as a business, and that is an angle that most people don't take into account. Now, from your research as an institute, how have we taken agriculture in the country? Are we still embracing it as a business, or are we still relegating it to an old man's occupation?
No, I would say that there are various categories, but I think by and large, these days, everything that a farmer does, I think is market driven. What I mean by that, is that you find that, you see, when somebody is promoting a crop like cotton, where they know that actually there is a buyer out there, you find everybody responds. All right. If somebody, we have these traditional crops like cowpeas, the millet, which are actually crops for food security. Those are the ones I would say, you see, the attitude to those crops by a farmer will be that, okay, these are just for me to consume, because there is no well-defined market out there. In Zambia, we are a maize country. Why does everybody engage in maize production? Because the support system is there. You grow the maize, you know who the ultimate buyer is going to be. We have the Food Reserve Agency. Okay. Then on the other side, also, there is FISIP. You get access to inputs. But I think what drives it at the end of the day is that market pool. Okay. So I wouldn't actually categorize farmers as just the traditional farmer. Yes, if you look at some crops, I could actually say that yes, some farmers there would just say, well, look, this is a way of life, But I think we are seeing now more and more farmers who are growing beyond subsistence. If you remember, the definition of subsistence farmer was grow to feed yourself, and if you have excess, you sell. But I think now we have more in the bracket of these emergent farmers, people who have actually targeted certain crops for markets. People grow soybean. We don't consume soybean in our households. We don't consume tobacco. We don't consume, and cotton. Sorry, that was the crop I forgot. Yeah. Those are purely grown for markets.
Great. Some of the things, the thematic areas you mentioned that you are currently running with, the plant breeding management, plant health management. When it comes to food markets, especially how ready the market is, most farmers I know complain that we are not doing this particular crop because the market is not there. I don't know, from your research, really, is it that the market is not there, or there are some things that are hindering the people from venturing into certain crops?
Paul, it's true what you're saying. I want to compare this to the chicken and egg. All right. Let's pick an example of cassava, for example. Recently, cassava has become an industrial crop. Zambia breweries, they are using cassava as one of the ingredients for cassava production. We have a lot of private sector companies like Zonkai International, which is actually here within 6 miles. They are buying cassava to produce ethanol. Okay. If you talk to these major companies, one thing they will tell you is that they cannot even produce to capacity because the raw material is not there. In the meantime, when you go to the farmer will tell you that, well, look, he cannot expand his capacity because the market is not there. So the question is, what is happening? So that means there is something missing here. There is a huge market. And let me tell you, for cassava, there is a huge market. Okay. Zambia breweries, the mining sector, they're demanding for huge quantities of cassava starch. But right now, most of that starch they're using is imported from outside the country. Then look at Luapula province, parts of northern, northwestern, parts of Copper Belt, parts of western province. These are all cassava growing areas. So why is it that all these cassava, we have this huge cassava production area? How come we're not tapping again what I would call this huge market? That means there's something which is missing here. And in that thematic area I discussed about, which focuses on social science and agribusiness, these are some of the issues we try to address. Like how can I can now have better linkages between the market and the producers. At times, you see, one of the biggest problems a huge market will have is that our farmers, they produce kgs per hectare, okay, because of their small land holdings. Okay, but the buyer who is out here, he wants to buy tons. Okay, then it will be expensive for him as a buyer to go and hopping from one village to other, buying kgs. So one of the things which is actually missing here are these aggregation centers. These are the middlemen who can actually go buy these small quantities, bulk it, get it to desired quantities, tons, and then be able to sell to the off-taker. All right. There are also other issues. Again, if you look at the way the farmer might produce that cassava, it might not be the desired quality by the off-taker. So again, there needs to be awareness creation and maybe training on the side of the person who is processing the cassava at the village level to make sure that the standards, the quality is what is desired by the market.
But what is IITA doing to ensure that there's that linkage?
That linkage is several things. Yes. One thing we are doing is, right now, if I start from production, the current yield by farmers is quite low. 5 tons per hectare, that's nothing. That one will not lead you to prosperity. So what is IITA doing? IITA is actually into breeding, generating varieties, high-yielding varieties, working together with the partners like the Zambia Agriculture Research Institute, universities, and the like. We want farmers to move away from low-producing varieties to high-yielding ones. Some of the varieties we have can actually yield up to 40 tons a hectare. And where we are here, I don't even think that it is necessary to get to 40 tons. If a small-scale farmer can move from 5 to 20 already, he'll be venturing into a viable business. All right. But now the issue is, when this farmer is transformed from a 5-ton to a 20-ton producer, other elements come in. There will be labor issues, because currently a farmer to process that 5 tons of his, he has to use a knife. First of all, he has to use hands to uproot the roots, then wash them, then use a knife to peel the cassava. Then from there, they use manual methods of pounding, to produce some mash, and then which they put in the sun and then dry it. All right. So on that front, what IIT is doing, we have brought in prototype machines, which actually farmers can use to process the cassava. So we have to work, yes, variety is one thing. We're actually looking at the elements of mechanization to reduce the labor input. Okay. But even within that, you see, we are again working with government to develop standards.
That's
when somebody is going to sell, you see maize. Maize actually is graded. Okay. When you go there, somebody actually will come with some pieces of equipment, they sample. Then over there, they will look at the color, is it 100% white? Okay. They will measure the moisture content to make sure that the maize they are buying is what is required for them to produce mini meal. So it's the same thing also we need for cassava. When somebody is buying chips, it has to conform to certain moisture thresholds, They have to make sure that, certain impurities are not there, okay? So this needs to be put in place to make sure that when a farmer produces and then he's selling, the end user there is buying what he wants. Okay, so again, these are some of the things IITA is doing. But through our youth program, also actually we are working on awareness creation. So that farmer who is in Shingongo can actually know that there is a market, a cassava market somewhere. But for me to penetrate it, this is what I need. Those are the linkages we are working on. So from the angle of the youth, one, you see, a lot of them are educated. And then, these youth, they are these ones I call the phone, the computer generation. There are people actually, who can search and then where is the market? What exactly do we need in terms of quantities, the quality? Okay. Then they can actually provide a service to the farmers out there and say, okay, look, you people, there is a market for this crop. These are the quantities we're talking about, several thousands of tons. So can you organize yourself, in a way that you can put all your produce together, get to 600 bags by 50 kgs, we hire a truck, and then we send it to Lusaka. Okay. So these are actually the things we're doing. I mean, if I summarize them, yes, we are working on technologies, on the production, we're working on mechanization, we're working on awareness creation, we're working with the youth on advisory services, just being a source of information.
I know within today we'll have time to visit the cassava processing center that you have here. But what are some of the things that someone can get from cassava, the end products? I think the traditional way, the only thing I would think of is, I know my wife can boil the cassava, she can roast it. Yeah, but other than that, what can one get from cassava?
There are so many things you can get from cassava. Yes, traditionally, cassava is used for shima. Or you boil as a snack, You can boil, clean the roots, boil, and then you chew or roast. But again, working through our food science unit, they have actually developed a lot of products which you can make from cassava flour. Cassava flour is actually a very good replacement for wheat flour. Okay, so you can actually blend maybe up to 20% cassava flour with wheat and then produce bread and other pastries. I've already mentioned the breweries. They're making cassava beer. And apparently that beer is cheaper than the regular beer made from grains. Okay, but then what does that do to the farmer? It diversifies the opportunities for marketing. When you're just selling to one market, you can be locked up, because once that market, there is a glut in that market, then normally the price goes down. But then when now you have several endpoints for, several avenues for marketing the cassava, I did mention that you can make starch from cassava. And it's a simple process. And this is something that can be actually demonstrated for you from our cassava processing center. So from that center, we can make high quality cassava flour. We can make starch. Then those ones can be further processed into bread, cassava bread. You can do scones and some other snacks. All right. Then one of the products you get from the center, which are dry chips, these are the ones that fit into the cassava beer market. They can also fit into these factories which are producing ethanol, for example.
Great. I know I'm excited. I can't wait to visit the center and also check some of the food items that I can test at the center. But something that farmers are very much interested in is the issue of the fall armyworms, which has really affected a number of farmers. What has the Institute done to address the matter?
Yes, for armyworm, it is a problem. It is a big problem. If you control it, if you don't control it adequately, it can actually lead into significant crop losses. Maybe running anything between 50 and 100% in terms of loss. It depends on the time the infestation happens. Now, this is a new pest which was actually discovered 5 years ago. And you might say, well, 5 years is already long enough. But you know, research is a long-term investment. You know, where did the fall armyworm come from? Well, the origin is the Americas.
Okay.
You know, how did they get here? We don't know. Maybe it's climate change. Maybe it's through trade. But the bad news is that the fall armyworm is here to stay. And why is it here to stay? Because I think this environment, and especially a country like Zambia, you know, the favorite host for fall armyworm is maize. And we grow maize throughout the year.
Yeah.
The other advantage which fall armyworm has is that it can actually feed on 28 families. So that means even if the favorite host is not their maize, there are still some other families it will, you know, it will feed on, like sorghum. And I even understand from our research in West Africa that one strain feeds on cassava. Then, like we are in trouble as Zambians, you know, because maize is our staple crop. So if this other one feeds on cassava, which is our second staple crop, so at one time you can reach a dead end. So as Iita, what we've been doing is when this pest came in, we didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it was. So for you to best control a pest, first you need to know what it is. So we did a lot of work in actually trying to identify what the pest was. So this service now goes beyond just us. So we train a lot of technicians within our partner organization to be able to identify the pest. These partners, they also teach farmers to actually scout and make sure that you have a problem, a fall armyworm problem in the field before you decide to control. Remember, control is not cheap. If you have to go and buy a pesticide, it costs you money. Then you should not just buy the pest for the sake of doing it. Buy to when the pest is there. Okay. Then on another hand, what actually as Iita have been doing is mobilizing knowledge, because we know that this pest originates from America. So the question is, how are they controlling it? That's a starting point. You know, that we know that how do they control this pest? You know, then we bring these technologies, what is known, then we start testing them out here. And then from there, we pick a subset of what we think works and then can be deployed by the farmers. And when you have a problem like this, especially one which is a strategic pest, addressing a crop of strategic interest in Zambia, our approach is that we need solutions now. A farmer will not wait. You know, research is a long-term investment, yes. But when somebody is confronted with a problem, he wants something which he can use to make sure that at the end of the day, he's able to feed his family. Then in the long run, we also look at other options, one which are going to be cheaper. So it's like we are buying time. So I would say, you know, and also when this pest came, nobody was ready. We know that there are some pesticides that work out there. But the first time we discovered this, I don't think we were even ready. So people were using any pesticide they would come across, whether it's for maize, for cotton, you know. And then there was this general belief that you use a pesticide it was not working. No, it was not that the pest was not, the pesticides were not working. The pesticides were working. The problem is that this pest in a season can reproduce 14 times.
In one season?
In one season. All things being equal, it can reproduce. So that means at the time you are applying, you will kill what is there, but you will miss what is still in the egg stage. So again, after maybe 2 weeks, you have another generation. Okay. So from the perspective of IITA, we're actually looking at, the available pesticides, the right ones, the ones that work. We are also looking at a biological control means. We are also into breeding varieties which are going to be resistant. Yes, but I can tell you right now that, that is still a work in progress.
The farmer that is watching, is there hope that the solution is coming?
There is hope. Why I'm saying there is hope, there is a sister pest, which is called the stalk borer. Okay, where already varieties which are resistant to that are available. So right now, I think if you look at the IITA testing program, that was like the building block. That was the foundation. That from that germplasm, is it possible for us now to actually start looking at if that germplasm also could be resistant to 4-army-1? Right. Then in addition to that, we also do this awareness creation and capacity building. Yes, there are some good pesticides which are there. You agree with me that if we abuse the pesticide, we create other problems like occupation health. You know how our farmers will apply it, they will go there, they don't even wear the right protective clothing. So essentially, that's what, again, working through partners or with partners, these are some of the things actually we're trying to tell farmers that, apply. First of all, go in the field, scout. When you know that you have the 4-army-worm, go to the agro dealer, get the right product. When you get the right product, please make sure that you apply the correct pesticide concentration, which is enough to kill the pest. But also make sure that you are protected. Wear gloves, wear gum boots, you wear some kind of protective clothing and apply at the right time. But I think all in all, I think we are on the right path. Maybe the last comment I will make, when you are dealing with a stubborn pest like 4-army-worm, one single control option doesn't work. Yes, you apply your herbicide, your pesticide, an insecticide, maybe it will be good enough for 1 or 2 weeks.
After that,
then think of bringing something else, to make sure that actually we come with a package we call integrated control. And then for the African farmer who normally actually practices multiple cropping, that's good. Yes, because if the maize is growing together with the soybean, together with the cassava, it might actually be a good environment, because as the moth is moving at night trying to look for the maize, it might be blocked by the cassava and will not be able to see the maize. So those are the kind of packages we actually try to promote. That let farmers, let's go back to our grandmother's garden, which was a concoction of crops, maize, cassava, groundnuts, and so forth.
Great. Still watching the Business Day. We are coming to you today from the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, and I am discussing with Dr. David Chikoye, who is the Regional Director for the Southern Africa Hub of IITA. Today's topic is agriculture as a business. Now, I understand you also run the Zambia Youth Agripreneur Project, something that is benefiting quite a number of youths. Just shed more light on how that project is running.
Yes, we started this about 10 years ago, upon realizing that, there are lots of youth who are actually unemployed, who are employable. These are people with diplomas, degrees, even in summer postgraduate training. And you see, if you look at agriculture, let me just call it agriculture, and then look at a typical youth, young person. This is somebody who is aged 15 to 35 years. His attitude towards agriculture is very negative. And that comes at on a backdrop of the fact that the average farmer out there is very old. So if all these farmers we have currently are going to be phased out one day by nature, and then we have these young ones, the youth who don't want to venture into agriculture, we're going to have a huge generation gap. There will be loss of knowledge. There will be loss of skills. So what will happen? It's like we're stuck. There will be no food production. So this is now as Iita, where we embarked on an experiment. I'll call it an experiment because I'm a scientist. But okay, what is it that we can do to get the youth interested in agriculture? So what the first thing we did was, we broke agriculture in the various components. That there's production, there's processing, there's marketing, there could be logistics at the end of the day. Then there's consumption on this. So then the whole thing was, we're now trying to say, okay, out of this, where do you think that some youth would fit in? Of course, a lot of them didn't want to venture into production. It's backbreaking. Yeah. So as I said, no, marketing is fine. As long as I'm not there tilling the land. The others will say, no, me, I'll be in IT and helping with advisory services. Okay. So when we started, this was a program that was started across all the hubs. So if I talk about what we did specifically, a couple of things. We went to the Ministry of Youth and Sports to find out, to learn what they were doing. Because again, when we work in a country like this, our job is not to duplicate or compete with what somebody is doing. We want to complement. Okay. So we went there to just understand how the youth were organized. And then we found that there were a lot of youth cooperatives around the whole country. And then we looked at the portfolio of projects we had in the different provinces, and then tried to link some of those activities to what the youth could benefit from what we're already doing. So in places like Eastern Province, we were running projects in Wapula, Southern and Western, and of course, given that we are here, these are the places where we actually identified youth groups, and from there, we kind of identified those ones who I would say that had a bit of interest in farming, or they were doing some farming activities. All right, so these are the ones then we started training. Our first point of entry was actually to start changing their mindset. Yes. You can actually make a living out of agriculture. When you venture into agriculture, let it not be just business as usual. No, go there, see it as a business. You're out there to make money. Then from there, we did some kind of skills gaps analysis and where the interests were. We needed to know that, okay, who is interested in livestock, who is interested in crops, who is interested in marketing, because one thing we didn't want was to force these guys that no, do this. We actually wanted to build and grow their interests. Then what followed was, once we understood where the interest was, then we did this kind of training gaps analysis. We said, okay, look, if someone wants to go into marketing, what is it that they're missing? Then we provided the training. Something which was common across the board was training in entrepreneurship. Okay, so that they could actually already start, having that business mentality. So what we do in our program, we bring in the youth here on campus. They stay with us for up to 1 year to undergo this training. So we have trained some in seed production. I can tell you that we got a huge gap in legume seed production and cassava seed production. Most of the private sector companies are not into this business. So again, when you're starting a small business, you don't want to go into a business where the big guys, the partners, the Zam seeds have already established. Start something where they're not there, and then you grow it. So a lot of them took interest actually in soybean seed production. So, for example, every year they have maybe 20 hectares, which is used as a field laboratory and also a field training center to actually understand the skill of seed production. Then we link these guys with the Seed Certification and Control Institute. Yes, who come and do their own part of the training and also the certification. Then eventually, we link them to these small seed companies that then become the buyer. Because again, if you understand the seed sector, most of the seed companies, they don't produce. They actually outsource that. So this is where the youth actually become handy because they get trained, they're already trained. Maybe they're people with diplomas. They have a basic understanding of agriculture. Okay. So then the other one where we saw a lot of opportunity was cassava processing. So the first group we brought here, there were about 15. So they actually learned the whole process of harvesting the cassava, cleaning it, producing chips, producing flour, then from there going into developing products, you know. And they had even set up a small shop here where they were supplying some of these products to the local schools here.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great.
Then the other one, which again just something we learned from their interest was fish farming. You know, most of the high cassava producing areas are also areas where there's a lot of water. So making a fish pond in such a place is much easier. Okay. So right now we are running another program. We have 1 or 2 fish ponds here on campus where the youth are actually learning from building the fish pond all the way into stocking the fish pond and then bringing in the fingerlings, feeding them until they reach the table stage where they sell. The last one, we have a group that's engaged in poultry production. Poultry production. One group is just doing the regular broilers. We have one or 2 groups out there in Mwanza and Kauma. They've gone into village chickens. Again, they have done their own market surveys. They're actually seeing that, there are lots of people, especially our neighbors here from Congo, who want to buy village chickens in large quantities. So that's why they ventured into that, because the market is already there. So again, with those guys, what we try to do is we bring an expert, somebody with the skills in village chicken production, so that they know the right way of doing the production. Then they get their training in business skills, and then they get this linkage to the market.
Great. Finally, I would want to know, agriculture as a business, what would you suggest? The fruits of research at the center here are evident. Everywhere you go, you can see fruits that research is being done. So I know information here is easily accessible. What would you advise the approach we take if we're to make agriculture marketable as a business to the people that are outside there?
As I was saying, always the starting point, which is also a very difficult point, is changing this mindset. Yes. Majority of the farmers here are small-scale farmers. They run in millions. They're always million small-scale farmers who I would say that want to do this the usual way. Let me grow enough to feed my family. But I think, for me, we are seeing a lot of change. Yes, when farmers venture into cash crops. So I think the same mentality they have for a cash crop, let that extend to these so-called food security or traditional crops. Typically, go and look at the way farmers manage their cotton crop. Yeah, cotton is planted on time. Cotton is given very good management. The crop is weeded. They will spray insecticide as per recommendation from research. And because of that, they have high yields. And then those high yield, you see there's somebody who is ready, who is available to buy. You know, so if we can do that for maize, the payoff will be quite high. You know, the payoff will be quite high. We can actually, these farmers, look, a lot of them already use. Farming as a business means, please plant improved varieties. When you plant an improved variety of maize, you are assured of, all things being equal, you are assured of getting 5+ tons. If you plant recycled seed, yes, you stay at 1 ton. You know, when actually you have invested the same kind of labor, you have applied the same fertilizer. In terms of crop management, again, manage the crop very well. Ask the recommendation from extension. You know, if they tell you that weed several times, do it. If they say that, okay, apply 4 bags of fertilizer based on dressing, go and apply the 4 bags. If you apply 2, at the end of the day, what you get is what you put in. Yes, you cannot reap where you didn't harvest. You know, again, one other thing which I've not talked about, typically in Africa, post-harvest losses are quite high, 40%. So you produce your 1 ton of maize, you're going to lose 40%. So that means you lose 400 kgs of that with your 1 ton. So again, you know, people need to invest in very good storage technologies. And at times those storage technologies are not complicated, okay? Because the idea is that, you see, we need, if farming has to be a business, really we need to improve the efficiency at each and every stage of the value chain. Production, when you're doing post-harvest handling, when you're doing storage, all these things, you know, what they need to be tip-top. You know, of course, something like that, it needs to be strongly backed by strong extension messages. At times, farmers might not actually know. If you have new crops, I mean, I would say a crop like soybean to the farming community, especially the small-scale farmers, it could be new. You know, you find that, okay, because they know how to plant maize. Maize has to be planted in 75-centimeter rows. So even when he sees a crop like wants to venture into soybean, he will use the maize knowledge to plant a new crop. No, you know,
It's different.
it's different. Yes, and then try to get that knowledge. If you're not sure, please get the information from the extension. Now, I'll not say come to IITA. IITA, we're a small organization, but the extension services are throughout Zambia.
Awesome. What are you doing as IITA to ensure that what you're doing it goes out to the public?
You know, yes, IITA, we work through partners. Where we are here, let's say on the breeding side, once we got very good materials, they are channeled through the Zambia Agriculture Research Institute. They are the ones that do the adaptive research. Once really a very good variety is identified, then it's registered. Then the private sector comes in to market it. The other activity we do is we do communication like what we're doing now. There are probably private sector partners who don't know what we do. Yes, but after listening to this program, they will know that, or when they see the pictures of, you know, soybean in the field, you know, they will probably come here and say, well, look, yes, they are looking for one high yielding soybean variety. You know, so communication and awareness creation also is very vital. You know, even the people who are listening out there, I don't know what you do in terms of translating this knowledge. I mean, yes, we are speaking a foreign language, but at times, remember, the farmer out there doesn't understand English. Yes. So again, working through some other partnerships, we can try to, we do training materials or simple leaflets for farmers, which I can written in local languages, so that at least somebody I know, you know, most of the people they can read. Yeah. So this is one way we do awareness creation. At times we do also, you know, high level advocacy. By that I mean that, you know, at times when you organize a field day like this, you invite the Minister of Agriculture or the PS, you know. When the PS comes to such a function, you know that TV1 and TV2 and Millennium TV are going to be there. You know, from that, people are going to what to learn. So that support is actually is very important. And as the agriculture sector is very broad. It's very big. So many opportunities, so many challenges. A small organization like Iita can never ever, make mileage unless you work with other partners.
Awesome. Thank you so much for hosting us in your office. I know we have a lot of work to do outside there to check a number of crops that are at the center.
Thank you very much, Paul. I hope this will not be the first and last visit of Iita. So anytime, you are welcome.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Still watching the Business Day today. We're coming to you from the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. I was discussing with the regional director for the Southern Africa Hub, Dr. David Chikoye. For now, we'll move straight into the fields and see some of the crops that are being managed under Iita.
On today's edition of the Business Day, I'm coming to you from the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. I don't know how much you know about tropical agriculture, but today's edition, we are limiting it to agribusiness. We will know exactly the different things that you can do under the agriculture sector. My name is Paul Shingongo. I'm your host. Now, I'll be talking to Tamara Mwansa, who is in charge of communications. She'll be sharing details on what the work of Iita is about. So she'll be joining me shortly and sharing with us the background of Iita. Thank you so much for having us. It's a big place, beautiful place, and someone would wonder, like, you own this place?
Yes, this is the investment that we've put up, but it's for the Zambian people, and the farmers need to benefit from what we do. It's not just here for as a tourist attraction. So, yeah.
The viewers are wondering, what is the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture all about?
Well, the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture was created in 1967. We have our headquarters in Nigeria, and we are present in 35 African countries. So we've divided the management of various operations for the hubs into 4 regional hub offices. So we have Eastern, Western, Central, and Southern. I'm happy to tell you that you are actually at the hub office of Southern African region. So we look out for Zambia, Malawi, and Mozambique. Iita is a very important institution because we look into securing food security. How do we do this? Our research is very relevant to the farmer. We have research on improved yield varieties in soybean, cassava, cowpea. We also have 4 armyworm research. You know, we've been affected by the 4 armyworms. Zambia being maize dependent, the 4 armyworm is actually a pain, I would say. Yeah, so we are also into capacity building. We work with postgraduate students. We host interns, and we have youth empowerment programs going on. And we are hosted by the Ministry of Agriculture. So what this means is all the technologies that we come up with, we disseminate to the people through the Ministry of Agriculture. And we work with ZARI also, the Zambia Research Institute. So that's us. So we are actually a very relevant institution in this country. And it's good that you actually came on the ground, because you will see the crop, and we have very good examples to show you what our research has done, and you get to appreciate us.
I'm eager to see what happens right here. But someone will be wondering, who is funding the Iita?
Okay, we have a couple of funders. I'll mention but a few. We have the World Bank, we have USAID, we have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We also have IFED and and the African Development Bank.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. I understand you've mentioned that there are various projects that are being implemented here. There's a Zambia Youth Agripreneur Project. What are some of the projects that are currently being implemented at IITA?
Under the Youth Empowerment Program, we have cassava processing. This is the whole value chain from planting, harvest, and the finished products. We have fish farming under the Youth Empowerment. We have poultry also. Very soon you actually get to visit the specific stations. So those are under the Youth Empowerment.
Awesome, awesome. What are some of the major crops that we'll visit today? Because I'm eager to visit them. What are some of the crops that our viewers should look out for?
Viewers should look out for, number one, we can't run away from our staple crop, maize. And then we have a gold mine crop called cassava. You know, there's this hype about cassava. So cassava is actually on demand. So how will our farmers meet this demand? They need us. Our improved varieties, and then we also have early maturity varieties. So the cassava team will shed more light. So we're going to look at maize, soybeans, cassava, we'll look at groundnuts, and maybe cowpea.
Maybe cowpea. I don't want to waste time. I think it's better we move right to see these crops that Tamara is mentioning. Don't forget, this is the business day, and today we are talking all things agri-business. I'm Paul Shingongo. Let's start this journey. Tasty food here. From cassava. You see why you have to go and farm cassava out there. Tasty things. But before we even get to this process, you are a food scientist. What do you do before you reach the stage where they are most interested eating?
Thank you very much. It's a very good question. Actually, as being told by the cassava breeders that cassava is a green gold. We all know that all human being depends on food. We need to process them. So cassava pass through a processing steps before it becomes the cupcakes. This is a cakes you are eating now.
Tasty.
Yeah, very tasty. So this is the root, the cassava root. It's been peeled, washed, and then we can grate them. So all the machines there is grater to grate them, to mash them, to make them into mash. After making them into mash, then we are going to press them to dewater it, because cassava contains a lot of water. So it takes time to dry. So there's a step there. We need to dewater it, to remove the water by applying the presser. That's a presser to apply weight. After we press it, to dewater it to about 30% water content, then we dry it. So normally the youth is one of our activity under food science department is to capacitate the youth, and that is to produce all these products. We developed this recipe. Use that cassava for household security. There are a lot of almost 50 different recipes there, which you can go back home and make use of. So after,
Can I take this to my wife?
yeah, you can take it. You can take it. Okay. So after we dewater, we dry, then we have this product. We dewatered, we dried, then we mill it. The milling machine is there. We obtain this. We call this one high quality cassava flour.
High quality cassava flour.
This one can replace wheat. In any product you can use wheat to bake, you can use high quality cassava flour. With my figure that I know, as at 2019, Zambian government spent 10.6 million US dollar to import wheat. Yes, so high quality cassava flour can replace wheat in most of the pastry and the cookies. Even the bread, you can substitute certain percentage into the bread. So once you get this flour, then this flour can now be used to make this product. So this is cassava cupcake, 100% cassava, no wheat,
100% cassava.
100% cassava flour. Yes, you can take a bite again. All right. Okay. This one is called chinchin.
What?
Chinchin. Okay. This one is also 100% cassava flour. Okay. This one also is a form of chinchin but different shapes. So we can have different shapes of the product, but it's all of them are from 100% cassava flour. As I've mentioned, these only three. We still have so many here. What we do again is to try to fortify cassava with legumes. So we call it food-to-food fortifications. Before we use this flour to make this product, we try to make flour of soybean to add to the cassava flour, because there is one component, protein, which is lacking in cassava. So you can add legumes to it and still make this product acceptable product. So not only the HQ7 you can make from cassava. When you dry it, you may not mill it. Then you can have it in chips. This is chips. This is what Dairies is buying. Sonkai is buying. So they are looking for this. In fact, the youth has produced for Sonkai. They have testified that this is the best cassava chips they can get in Zambia.
The best in the country.
In the country. Yes, they can get. Yes. So that is that about the product from cassava.
Thank you so much, Doc. I'll be very much interested to especially on the final products, the value chain, especially these things that youths can even sell on the streets.
Of course, yes.
Something that I think most of the youths out there have been blind to. But through the work that you're doing, really a number of youths I know are going for hosting us here.
Thank you very much.
I need to finish my bite, but this is where we end today's edition of the Business Day. We began by talking to the director right here at the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, and we saw different crops that are here. It's a place that you need to visit on behalf of the entire production crew, and of course, my producer, Peter Chilufya. My name is Paul Shingongo. Join me on the next edition of the Business Day. For now, I have work to do.